A group of Muslims have come out, or revived, I should say, a campaign to make a statement condemning the Islamic extremism abroad, while also mentioning that they are peace-loving Muslims that have nothing to do with this extremism. Now, the hashtag trended back in September, but now it's been revived, and the hashtag in question here is not in my name. There's a short video kind of explaining what this is about. Let's take a quick look, and I'll give you more details.
The ISIS do not represent Islam or any Muslim.
Because it's totally un-Islamic.
Because they're killing innocent people.
Because you're unjust.
We must all unite together and try to stop this group from damaging Islam and damaging Muslims.
Not in my name.
Because your leader is a liar.
Because your actions do not represent the actions of the rightly guided companions.
Because your caliphate doesn't represent the Ummah.
Because what you're doing is inhumane.
Because you abuse heart and minds.
Because you have no compassion.
Because my religion promotes tolerance for women, and you have no respect for women.
Not in my name.
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 So that was a campaign that was started by the Active Change Foundation. And again, this was something that started in September, and now it has been revived because of the attacks in Paris. And I think it's important to do campaigns like this because, unfortunately, the way the media covers Muslims in general tends to demonize all of them. And that's led to hate crimes and bigotry toward completely moderate, peace-loving Muslims that haven't done anything wrong. So hopefully campaigns like this humanize them. But also it kind of goes toward those who claim that all Muslims should condemn what the extremists are doing. They do condemn what the extremists are doing. They don't applaud it. They don't sanction it. They don't warrant it.
So every Muslim group in the West condemns these attacks. They do it immediately after the attacks. They put out the statements. Fox News, I don't know if they get the statements or don't bother getting them, goes, why won't they condemn them? But they just did. They put out a whole statement condemning. And then all the Muslim countries condemn them. Even, it's not even fair to say even Iran. Iran hates ISIS, right? Mm-hmm. Iran condemned these attacks. So now when you mention that, some people get mad. They're like, oh, don't what are you trying to help Muslims by pointing out they're against terrorism? But you asked if Muslims condemn terrorism. We're answering the question for you. They are condemning it. So make up your mind.
So
right?
I think that there's really something else at play, and I could be wrong about this, but this is just my speculation. I don't think that they necessarily want these individuals to condemn the terrorists. Of course they're going to condemn the terrorists. Of course the vast majority of Muslims are peace-loving people, right? I think what they want is for them to condemn their own religion. Okay, They want them to speak out against their own religion. And look, here's the reality about religious doctrine, okay? You take Christianity, you take Muslim religion, and you just look specifically at their doctrine and their literal interpretation of their doctrine. They're both violent, okay? It's all about the way individuals interpret that doctrine and how they actually utilize it. Now, if you want to have a conversation about, which religion has carried out the most acts of violence recently, it's no question Muslims. There's no question about that. Muslim fundamentalists, right? But here's what you're not doing any favors to. When you disenfranchise peace-loving Muslims who should be joining our fight against extremism, well, you make the fight against extremism a lot more difficult, right?
Well, they're not just theoretically joining the fight. Kurds are Muslims. They're fighting against ISIS every day in Iraq and Syria, right? Other Muslims in Syria are fighting against ISIS. Iraq is Muslim. The Iraqi government is fighting against ISIS. So to say that they're not doing enough when you're sitting on your ass and they picking up a gun and fighting bravely against ISIS troops, a little hypocritical, right? So now on this issue, I'm actually a tiny bit torn because I don't feel that every Muslim has to apologize for what ISIS did. There's this horrible report on TV the other day. They kept asking this guy from a Muslim center in community center in France, why don't you condemn it? He said, but I did condemn it. They're like, okay, but your mosque, why didn't you catch these guys? It's like, how the hell was I supposed to catch them? They weren't in our mosque. I've never met these guys. Like, all Muslims don't know each other. There's 1.6 billion of them, right? Like, if I had known the guys, I would have turned them in, but I didn't know them. They're like, okay, yeah, but apologize for it. He's like, what do you want me to apologize for something I didn't do? Like, this is weird. This is getting really, really weird, right?
Right.
So I'm a tiny bit bothered that it seems like they're in mass apologizing for things they didn't do, right? I mean, it would be weird for any other. I mean, okay, fine. People hate it when you say Dylan Roof. That makes their heads explode. I don't know why. Okay, so let's not use him as an example. Use any other example. When the weirdo Christian fundamentalist killed Dr. Tiller, did every Christian or every pro-life person in the country have to come out and say, no, I didn't do it. I'm sorry I didn't catch him in my church. Like the guy who attacked the Jewish community center in Kansas. Did every Christian in the country have to apologize for that guy? Why would you have to apologize for that guy?
Right. Unfortunately, the way everything is being covered demonizes all Muslims, right? And it might be intentional, like it is in the case of Fox News, right, where they're demonizing refugees that are literally trying to escape this type of terrorism in their own countries. But it might happen either subconsciously or unintentionally by other outlets. And so I don't blame them for coming forward and doing a campaign like this. I agree with you that it's a little unfair to ask all Muslims to get out and like condemn what's happening. But at the same time, I think that it does at least fight back somewhat against this idea that Muslims who follow this type of doctrine are all evil and they're all against us. That's not the case.
No, don't get me wrong. I love them for doing whatever they can to fight against that, right? And look, they're brave. They're coming out and saying ISIS does not speak on my behalf. They're making fun of the leaders of ISIS in some of the video, right? Wonderful, wonderful. And so they point out a verse from the Quran, and I want everybody to understand this too. So parts of the Bible are soaked in blood. Other parts are wonderful. They say help the poor and the needy. The Quran is the same. I know that, like, for Westerners who haven't read the Quran, they're like, no, it's only evil in the Quran. No, there are horrible parts of the Quran that are violent. And Muslims will say, no, that's not true. Yeah, I can show you. I've read the Quran, okay? That's partly why I left, right? Yes, that exists. If they're in our way, let's kind of kill them. No, that's only if they attack us. And there's a ton of excuses made by religious people of all stripes, okay? On the other hand, are there good parts of the Quran too? Of course. So, for example, here's a verse. Whoever kills an innocent person, it is as though he has killed all of mankind. So if you wanted to focus on the good parts of the Quran, you could focus on that part and say, Quran is 100% against killing innocents and committing acts of terrorism. It's like killing all of mankind if you kill just one innocent. But the reality is the books are contradictory, okay? Both the Quran and the Bible have good parts and terrible parts. So what these people are doing, out of the goodness of their heart, they're trying to do the right thing. They're saying, let's focus on the good parts. So everybody handles it differently. I looked at it and go, the books are contradictory. I'm leaving. They don't make sense, right? They look at it and go, let's focus on the good parts. Great, let's all do that. But when you just say, okay, the Bible's wildly contradictory and it has violent parts that maybe were exercised in the past, but now, no, Christians never do that. Never do that. No, you can't blame them en masse. No way. But the Quran is either all bad, which is not factually true, or, yeah, it's contradictory like the Bible, but the Muslims are irredeemable because they actually believe the Quran, whereas the Christians don't believe the Bible.
Also,
what a funny argument, by the way. You go tell the Christians that they're okay because they don't actually believe in the Bible. My guess is they're going to disagree with you.
Also, I just don't believe that every religious person sits down and reads page for page what religious doctrine tells them that they need to do. Like
almost none of them do.
None of them do. So that's my biggest issue, because I see these kids in this video and they're my friends. You see what I look at them and I think of my friends. I think of people around me. I think of these innocent people who just want to live their lives and they don't want to get caught up in all this terrible, disgusting violence. And unfortunately, they were born into a family that believes one religion or another, and by default, they follow that religion. But I say that loosely because I was born into Christianity. Do you think I read the entire Bible when I was growing up and I considered myself a Christian? Hell no, I didn't do it. Went to Sunday school every Sunday. You think I learned everything that was in the Bible in Sunday school, even though I went from age 5 to 19? Hell no, they didn't teach us everything that we needed to know or everything that the Bible contained. A lot of people follow the religion without really understanding exactly what their religious doctrine says. So please keep that in mind whenever you look at a specific Muslim person and you think, oh, they might be bad because of what's happening abroad with this ridiculous Islamic terrorism.
Okay, so final thing on this. Look, there's a reason why the people who are saying, oh, it's the Muslim ideology and it can't be fixed, and the problem with Muslims is that they all believe it, right? There's a reason why they're saying that. The reality is, no, Muslims, like Christians, like Anna just said, the overwhelming majority of them do not read their holy texts. They don't know the good parts or the bad parts. They just know what they've been taught, right? And so, look, if you want to fight against the cultural propaganda that teaches them the bad parts of the Quran, I'm 1,000% with you, right? When in Turkey, there's these schools that have the kids, instead of learning real stuff, they teach them the Quran in Arabic. In Turkey, they don't even speak Arabic. The kids have no idea what it's saying. They memorize the whole Quran in Arabic. What a horrible waste. Free those kids. Have them learn something real, right? But the reason that the people blame Islam and its ideology en masse is because they don't want to get to a smart solution. They want to get you to have ill feeling towards Muslims so you can take action with those feelings, right? If you find out that it's kids like this and they're just like the Christian kids, some read some parts of the Quran and others don't, right? Well, that's not convenient. It's not easy to hate them.
Yeah.
Right? After seeing those girls and guys in that video, it's not as easy to hate them.
I mean, it's not easy for people like us to hate them. It's easy for a lot of people that I see on the internet to hate them and think that they're just making excuses. They're not just making excuses. They believe what they believe. They have a different interpretation of their religion. And you see it across all sorts of religion, including Christianity. Again, I grew up Christian. I did not grow up believing that gay people were terrible and they're going to go to hell and burn in eternal damnation. All I learned was the good parts of the Bible about how I need to forgive others, how I need to help the poor, how I need to just be a forgiving person, right? Those are the things I learned. But do you think that I sat down and learned about things in Deuteronomy? Hell no, we didn't learn about those things. So if somebody takes the Bible and reads it page by page, they would think, oh my God, someone who believes in this stuff must be evil or violent or whatever. No, that's not the case. I just want to have a sane conversation about these issues. And unfortunately, when these attacks happen, people go to extreme ends of the spectrum. And we need to consider the fact that we need coalitions, we need diplomacy, we need to work with people in order to solve this problem in the Middle East. And if you just demonize people who are peace-loving, well, then you're making the problem worse.
Yeah, and look, there are bad parts of the cultures of some of the countries that Islam is in. Some of them, like, for example, female genital mutilation, some of the Christians in those areas practice it, some of the Muslims in those areas practice it. If you say more Muslims practice it, I'm with you. How can we fight that? Let's fight it together, okay? So that's a specific problem that we can fight together. This terrorism is a significant problem that we can fight together, and a specific problem. Let's fight it together, okay? When you say, I'm going to go after all, no, not all Muslims, but Muslims in general, because they believe in the ideology of Islam. They like to talk in circles, right? They like to make themselves feel better about, no, I'm not after Muslims. I'm against the ideology of Islam. And no.
So let me ask you something. What is the solution to that? Because I agree, right? I hate the religious doctrine. Hate it. But it's there and people believe in it. So what's the solution? Do you get rid of it? And how do you get rid of it?
Okay.
Do you start picking and choosing which religions are acceptable? Because then it's a slippery slope, right? I don't believe in Christian ideology, don't believe in Muslim ideology, I don't believe in any religious ideology whatsoever. But if someone wants to practice their religion in a peaceful way, I'm not going to get involved in a country that's supposed to be in favor of religious freedom and tell them, no, we're getting rid of that because this is inherently evil. Mm-hmm. It's just, I mean, it just doesn't make sense.
Well,
I want a real solution. Believe me, I want a real solution. Demonizing people based on what their religious doctrine says is not the right solution. It doesn't solve anything.
So here's my attempt at a solution, okay? It is to, and this is funny, because when I won my Freedom from Religion Award for speaking out against religion, okay? And yes, I know that comes as a shock to some atheists, but I got that award because I often say, hey, you know what? We should be proactive in fighting against the bad parts of religion, no matter what the religion is, okay? So I do believe in fighting back in the culture wars, okay? I think the culture wars are real, and I think we need to engage in them, okay? Now, this is an enormously important distinction. That doesn't mean I'm against all Christian culture or against all Muslim culture. I would argue that that is a really sad and limited way to look at it. I'm against the parts of the culture that are problematic. So if a Christian says, let's help the poor and the needy, I'm not against that part of the culture. I love that culture, right? And by the way, a lot of people don't live in the West, don't live in Muslim areas. So they see the bombings. I get it. You see the bombings, you're there, oh, Muslim, that's what Muslim is, right? But you don't live in a Muslim area where they give 10% of their money to help the poor, and that in the religious holidays, the first thing they're supposed to do is to, for example, sacrifice a lamb or whatever it is to feed the poor. And the whole emphasis of the holiday is on the poor, to help the poor. You never see that, because it's not in the news. I know why it's not in the news, because it's regular, it's normal,
and
right?
it's not newsworthy.
It's not newsworthy.
Right.
But it gives you a skewed sense of what Muslims do. Now, on the other hand, I'm super aggressive in the opposite direction on some of the parts of the Muslim culture that I disagree with, that I think is terrible. So, and I know some of it is geographic rather than related to Islam, and some of it is totally related to Islam. So, for example, in the geographic category, in some of the Central Asian republics, they do kidnappings of brides.
Yes.
Right, bride kidnappings. Then they rape the girl, and then the girl's parents come over because of their culture and convince the girl to get married to a rapist. Okay? So that's a horrible old culture and practice. So I know conservatives, whether they're conservative Muslims or conservatives here in America, say, no, we protect tradition. We're in favor of tradition. No. It depends on the tradition. For example, here in America, we had a tradition called slavery. It was horrible. We were against that culture. We fought against that culture, and we won, and we should have done that.
Yeah.
So we should fight against female genital mutilation, obviously terrorism, right? Yeah. The kidnappings, the honor killings, etc. So let's all fight against that together. And how do you do that? Well, you unabashedly engage in those cultural wars. So that was my whole speech. And how do you do that? It's not by attacking people. It's not by bombing them. We shouldn't go bomb Tajikistan because we're against, kidnapping and raping girls. It would be counterproductive to bomb them, right? So, but to say, hey, this is what we're for, this is why this is wrong, this is why we're right, you do that on the internet, you do it through shows like ours, you do it through education, and you show them, hey, you know what, if you mutilate a poor girl, it doesn't, first of all, the Quran doesn't tell you to do that, the Bible doesn't tell you to do that, that part you made up, okay? And what is it? It was done for this reason in the past, and this is the real purpose behind it. And you fight them with truth. And if you fight them with truth, guess what? That is a long-term battle. You're not going to win overnight, and it's not going to be easy. But you keep pounding away at them with the truth and hope to change the culture in that way. But if you go and say to them, your identity is wrong, your identity, in this case Islam, is irredeemable, and that's why we must keep bombing you, profiling you, occupying you, doing all the things that we're doing because we're afraid of the Muslims and we think the Muslims are unfixable, that is definitely not going to help.
I mean, that's what we've been doing. That's what we've been doing. And another thing to keep in mind, just going to your point about bombing, I mean, here's why ISIS has been so successful in recruiting young people. And look, this is obviously a criticism of U.S. foreign policy, but I think that it's a warranted one, right? When the United States uses faulty intel to drop bombs or to do drone strikes on innocent civilians, or they accidentally kill innocent civilians in the process of trying to get a terrorist, and then on top of that, they refer to those civilians as collateral damage, how easy does it make ISIS's job in recruiting Muslims?
Yeah, and then
it's so easy.
And then you have idiots like Huckabee who say we should rip up our peace treaty with Iran because of the ISIS attacks in Paris. But ISIS hates Iran. ISIS hates Iran more than they hate us. It's a Shia-Sunni rift, and they hate the Shias that are led by Iran. So why would we be so monumentally stupid as to attack Muslims that ISIS is fighting against? And that's what you do when you say Muslims are irredeemable, their ideology is so flawed, and they all believe their ideology, so they're not curable, so we have to fight against all of Islam. That is monumentally stupid and counterproductive. Let's be smart in how we fight back so we can end the terrorism.